Hello and welcome to another edition of Legend in Lockdown with the Foundation of Light. It does so much for the people in the area, the foundation. It's absolutely fantastic. There will be a Just Giving page, a link to the Just Giving page throughout this interview. Please give whatever you can because it is just a magnificent charity to get involved with. Now, today, we have a rock-solid centre-back partnership here. Our two legends, multiple Premier League winners, FA Cup winners, League Cup winners. They've won the Champions League as well. They are Wes Brown and John O'Shea. Wes, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. You know, lockdown's easing off now.
Well, we hope so. Yeah, hopefully.
At the moment it is, but we're starting to do a few more things, but I've been very good, thanks.
Great to have you, Wes, and John O'Shea as well. How are you getting on, John? Happy enough with Reading's last couple of games?
Yeah, look, you'd have to be. Obviously 4 points from 2 games, but last night, just disappointing. We didn't put Huddersfield under a bit more pressure, but to be fair to them, they put in a good display as well. So we know what the championship is like. It's a bit anyone can beat anyone, and happy to come out with a clean sheet. And we look forward to Charlton now at the weekend.
And you, of course, John, during the lockdown, you will have been having to do. Have you had to do some sort of coaching from home? How has it all worked out for you? And of course, with the uncertainty of knowing whether the season was going to start again.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy, to be honest. But look, the manager straight from the off as soon as we could. The boys, obviously our fitness coach, Josh Bowen gave the lads a program to do, and then the boys just had to follow that. And then when we could do towards you're talking early Mayish, when we could bring the boys into the training ground, we were fortunate. We have a new training ground at Bearwood, and we were able to bring the boys in and space them out over 4 or 5 pitches. It was very strange, obviously, because when you're doing your coaching licenses, you're not really doing individual sessions in half a pitch each and shouting at the players. But at least we could see them, rather than them just going down the park or into random fields where they were living. We could have some kind of control under it. So it was very strange. But to be fair to the boys and the other coaches and the manager, and that they put in a great effort, and hopefully we can see more rewards of that with the games remaining.
Yeah, a test of your coaching abilities, which I'm sure you are passing with flying colours. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the summer of 2011 when the two of you joined Sunderland in just a moment, but it would be wrong of us to not talk about how much success the two of you had at the club that you signed from, that you both came from Manchester United. And Wes, I'll start with you. I'm looking at your honours here. 5 Premier League titles. Please correct me if I get any of these wrong, if I leave any out. 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and 2 Champions League winners' medals as well. Now, when you look back on your career, how satisfied are you that I can reel all of those ones off?
Yeah, I'm not satisfied at all. It should be 8 Premier Leagues, but I didn't play 10 games in 3 of them.
Claims that. He always claims about 12 Premier League medals.
Yeah, I need the rule to change just to... one of them I played 9, Chaser, and it's 10 to get a medal. But,
hey, look, I'd say 8. I'd say 8. I'm not questioning you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real... But I mean, absolutely delighted. I mean, I started off... My full season was the treble season in 99, so... I mean, what a season for me to start. If anything, it was a little bit bad because I thought that was sort of the norm when you do that in your first season. But the expectation was so high at the club. You know, we tried to win everything we could, and I was, so happy to be in a different couple of squads and win that many trophies.
Yeah, and John, I mean, looking at yours, please tell me if you maybe only got 8 or 9 games one season. You can add another one on here, but I've also got 5 Premier League titles to you. I've got 1 FA Cup, 2 League Cups, 1 Champions League, and a FIFA Club World Cup as well. So when you look back again on your playing career, I know that you've got far more to come in terms of coaching and managerial, but on your playing career, you must be very satisfied by that as well.
No, look, Tom, when you start off and I moved over from Ireland, Wes is talking about his first year with the first team was a treble. That was the year I joined the club. as a 17-year-old then. So to think that I was going to force my way through into that team, that squad, and share some amazing memories, with a great group of people, and the manager obviously leading us was very special. I was kind of with the first team for properly, shall we say, because I had a couple of loan spells, but with the first team squad for 9 years, and to think out of those 9 years, I have 5 Premier League medals. It's brilliant. We should have a few more FA Cups, I think, Wesley.
Yeah.
But look, we won't complain. We got a good haul.
And then you both made the decision to move on from Manchester United, and thankfully for all of us Sunderland fans out there, you both chose to come to Sunderland together with Steve Bruce, former Manchester United player himself, as our manager at the time. Wes, what are your memories of how that move came about?
Yeah, well, I didn't really start a lot of games, and it's really easy for me to remember that I sort of knew the time was coming for me to leave Man United, even though you don't want it to happen. But you just have this feeling, the manager brings in some new young players. At the time, it was Chris Smalling, Rafa and Fabio. And it's funny because I've seen over the years the manager do it to other, even unbelievable legends. Do you know what I mean? But my legs weren't quite the same, and I had to speak to the manager, and he said he wanted me to stay, but at the same time I wouldn't be playing as many games as I had a year left. But I mean, Steve Bruce called and said, I think he told me first, Shady, that he wanted to sign me and you, and then I told you. I can't remember, and I don't know if you even believe me, but I just remember signing, and I remember phoning Shady saying, where are you? And he said, oh, I should be coming tomorrow. And I said, Shady, that's not what we decided on. That wasn't what we did. But yeah, I mean, Shady had a good few offers as well. So, I mean, I signed the day before. But, one of the reasons for that was Steve Bruce. And obviously John said he would probably be coming as well. But I think it was Phil Bardsley and Kieran Richardson that we also knew, who were already there. But even being honest, once it happened, it was probably one of the hardest things I did, for the simple fact that I've never been to another club. I've been at Man United since I was 13. So when you're reaching the age of 31 and you're leaving, your first job, I was happy that Shazy came as well.
Well, that's it, John. I said that you had quite a few other offers on there. So why Sunderland? And do those memories of the move that Wes has just talked about, is that all correct in your mind?
Some of it. There was a good reason for the delay, and I think Steve Bruce, he eventually believed me. But obviously, myself and my wife, we were having our first child. Alfie came along, but he was 2 weeks late. So that was there was no, shall we say, looking for different deals or behind the scenes. Because I didn't want the stress of moving and stuff. I just wanted to make sure that, well, I wasn't going to be delivering the baby, obviously, but making sure the baby came along nice and healthy, and then we could focus on the move to Sunderland. But I was very excited by it because of where the club had just finished, the ambitions that Steve had spoken about. Obviously, going with Wes, there was talk of a couple of other boys even at that early stage from United as well. That was a similar scenario. We possibly could have stayed. I had a year left as well on my contract, but as Wes spoke about, it comes at a time our relationship with the manager was that good that we just spoke about the number of games that we'd play over the time. I'd played quite a bit that season before I left, so but it was time for a fresh challenge, and we headed up to the northeast.
Yeah, I think Darren Gibson was the other one who Steve Bruce was after as well. And John, you said how your relationship with the manager Steve Bruce was so good, but unfortunately you weren't with him for very long, because quite early in that season, the bosses Ellis Short decided to make a change. So what was that like for you, having had the same manager your whole career, and you finally get a new manager at a different club, and then after a couple of months, you got another new one?
Yeah, look, it was the first experience of I had friends ringing me. Now you know what friends in the game ringing me. Now you know what real football is like. You've been in a fantasy land for the last 10, 13 years since you've been at United. It was tough, very tough on Steve because he was given a chance to build a new squad. He just finished 10th, I think, in the table the season before. I think 10 or 11 players had left, 10, 11, around 10 players come in. And then by a few months later, he's out the door, you know. But that was going to be the scenario for the next few seasons, obviously, with the changeover of managers, and it was something we had to grow accustomed to and deal with.
Yeah, I guess that was probably the same for you then, Wes. Exactly the same thing. You'd had the whole manager the whole time, then suddenly you're about to have your third in the space of a few months.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and obviously, as we know, as the years went on, that amount went up tremendously. But yeah, it was a new experience. I mean, I didn't help matters, to be fair. At the beginning, I got injured a little bit, and then I had another bad injury when I think it was, I can't remember which man was it, Gus, not Gus, Martin O'Neill came. I had a very bad ligament injury on my knee, and it was just taking me ages to get over it. But yeah, I mean, obviously when you've just signed somewhere and the manager gets sacked pretty much straight away, you know, you've been looking to work with him and sort of settle down there. It was a little bit difficult, obviously early doors when he gets sacked. But, you know, like John O'Shea, we were experienced players by then, so we was able to sort of crack on. And then you saw in football, you have to get over that really quick, otherwise there's no point, you know, dwelling on it. You've just got to get over it and try and look forward to the next sort of manager that comes along and try and do your best for them.
And you did do your best for Martin O'Neill, of course, because that season, John, Sunderland were nowhere near a relegation battle. You had a brilliant run in the league. You had a good run in the FA Cup as well. At that stage, at the end of that season, did you ever think that would be the last time that you're playing for Sunderland and not be in some sort of a relegation battle, you know, still with it all to play for on the penultimate game of the season?
Yeah, no, look, it was very strange to think like that because obviously Martin's experience in the Premier League, his capabilities of building a squad to challenge in the top half of the Premier League, like he did with Aston Villa, obviously, was something that obviously we were excited by, and unfortunately, look, it didn't turn out like that. But that was, as you said, that was going to be the case, that the players had to get used to a turnover of manager and a turnover of new players coming into the squad, and some players unhappy with the old manager going, and some new players happy because they've been brought into the club by the new manager. And there was a kind of a group of 7-8 players that had to kind of galvanize everyone again and get the spirit in the group going again. And it was challenging. It was challenging, to say the least.
And that brings us on to the next manager that I'm sure you two get asked about a lot. Even as just a Sunderland fan, people ask me a lot about Paolo Di Canio, who came in towards the end of the next season, and in fairness, Sunderland stayed up with his help, with your help, but he was certainly, when people say, "Oh, this is a controversial character," it's normally quite an easy thing to say about someone. There's no doubt that Paolo Di Canio, for several reasons, was a controversial character. But what was he like as a manager and head coach for you?
Yeah, I mean, he was different. If you ask Shazy, I think when he first come in, he told us all what he wanted, what he expected. He was my first Italian manager, you know. I know obviously it was his second main job, I think, really, being a manager. So it was all a little bit new. He told us what he wanted, he told us what he expected, and it didn't quite go to plan. I mean, I started getting injured a little bit again myself personally, so I wasn't able to help the lads on the pitch, which is very frustrating. he was very demanding, and sometimes probably a little bit too demanding. And I think that's where with himself and the players, they start to become a little bit of a distance. But sometimes I just don't think a club and a manager go together. And I think on that occasion that's what happened.
Do you think when he says too demanding there, John, was he sometimes too harsh on the players? Maybe some of the younger players. Did he ever take it too far? Did he just want too much from you all?
No, because look, I'm looking at it now. I'm flipped to the other side. I'm going to start hammering the players now because I'm a coach. No, look, for me initially looking back at it, it was strange that they replaced Martin at that time of the season where we had, I think it was 8 games or 9 games to go, and we brought in, and obviously we brought in Paolo, and obviously he did the job. He did keep us up. Well, I would have been fairly certain that Martin would have kept us up as well, but Paolo did. And to be fair, his individual preparation for a game was fantastic. The details that he went into was really good detail that he gave to the players about the preparation for the games. And it was, as Wes spoke about there, it was early on in his managerial career, and he'd had, I think it was the Swindon job previously.
Yeah.
And look, they were obviously, because of the situation we were in, certain demands were put on us, but that was rightly so, and that's a manager's choice. But unfortunately, we didn't respond to it properly, and he didn't get the best response from us, and that's going to happen sometimes. But I would say, from his preparation point of view, from a game, details preparing us for a game were very good, and he had lots of good things, Paolo, but obviously lots of things that went against him.
In hindsight, Wes, could he have done with maybe someone, actually probably a bit unfair to suggest that all of his coaching staff who he brought from Swindon, it's unfair for me to say that they were unapproachable. I wouldn't know, I don't know any of them. But could he have maybe done with someone, an older head as an assistant or a first team coach, who maybe could be a little bit more open with the players, who could speak to the players and maybe relay their problems to Di Canio, and he might listen to them? Could that have helped?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Like I said, when you do get a new manager, they bring in their people, and that's every club I've ever been to. It's always been the same. So, it just didn't work in a sense with Di Canio in that way. But you could talk to him in any sort of way. He was absolutely fine. It wasn't like everything was separated. You could always go up to him and have a chat with him. Me and Shazy, we both played against him as well. So it wasn't that sort of distance that you couldn't go to and knock on his door, because that's totally false. But it was just everything that came with it was a little bit different, and where the lads wasn't used to it. And like John just said, it's not just his fault. We didn't adapt to some things as well as a team, in certain ways.
So Di Canio came in, John, in the end of the 2012-2013 season, and he was gone fairly early in the I think it was 6 games in actually to the 2013-14 season. Now that season, John, as a Sunderland fan, was incredible. All right, you'll be used to the Manchester United fans demanding all sorts, winning every single trophy. For Sunderland fans, that season we look back as one of the actually most enjoyable seasons ever, which we would never ever thought of, because when Gus Poyet came in after Kevin Ball had his two games in caretaker charge, even at that point it looked like we were down. And even when we flirted with getting out of the relegation zone, or maybe just got out of the relegation zone, we always went back in. Now, not only did we survive by some incredible wins, like away at Manchester United, away at Chelsea was something else, but also we got to the League Cup final as well. So what was it about Gus Poyet that made that season so memorable? What did he do?
Look, he obviously galvanised everyone. It was that South American spirit and grit that he had in abundance that he brought in. I'll just bring you back quickly. When I first signed for Sunderland, I spoke about, obviously, one of the questions I was asked by, I think, one of the local reporters, obviously saying, "Oh, you've won trophies, blah blah blah." Like, and I said, "Look, the idea is, yeah, we're unlikely we're going to challenge for the Premier League title." I said, "But why can't we win one of the cups along the way? We can do. The club is big enough to do that." And we came, obviously, that season we came mighty close. Unfortunately, we came up against that Man City team, and we were holding them out for a long spell until Yaya decided to stick one in the top corner from 30 yards. But going back to Gus and his team, you talk about the kind of backroom staff. Gus was clever in the sense that he had a good mix that was able to create a good bond with everyone, but also as well, he was able to, as I said, galvanise the group and get every last drop that the players could give. He did it, and we responded as well. Not every time, but majority of the times we got good performances and good results along the way.
And Wes, how long did it take for... Oh, yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, I just think Gus was brilliant, and the way Gus wanted us to play was absolutely brilliant. So, in a way, it was a little bit us as a squad. It was our fault because we just weren't quite good enough as how he wanted us to play, which was a little bit like Man City play now. Sorry, just cut off there. A little bit like Man City play now, the way he wanted us to do it. But we just weren't quite good enough, or we didn't have the confidence as well. And it was a shame because he had, especially along with Charlie Otway, it was a great little vibe that we had together. And again, after that, we're still always struggling at the bottom of the league.
But you two, as centre backs, when you said Wes there that you like the style of play that he wanted, you two were the centre backs, and he quite clearly wanted you to play out from the back. Is that something that you like? Because it certainly, you two were excellent that season, so it worked in that sense.
Yeah, it did. But I think it's when you want a team to play that, first of all, you need a lot of confidence in the team. Every player, they have to be confident in what they're doing. And it only takes someone to do a mistake, you see. And confidence can really drop, and you have to sort of forget about it. And if you don't do that, that sort of game and the way you play it, if you're doing it that way, you can get punished really bad. We see teams doing it now. I mean, even if Man City or the top teams do it, if they give the ball away or they pass it wrong or in the wrong sort of area, if it does get nicked, you pretty much on a quick counter attack, and you normally end up with the other team having a shot at goal. So, I mean, we lost. The confidence of the team wasn't at its best once that started, and it was very difficult then to try and find another way. But Gus still wanted us to play that way, and he tried to keep the confidence going. But there was times when, I thought I could see the squad and the team that they just weren't probably ready for that.
Well, Wes, the reason I asked that question is because back in 2014, there was a World Cup coming up. Now, you had retired from international duty. Was it 2010 that you retired from international duty? In that 2013-14 season, I was one of many people saying that Roy Hodgson at the time should have been trying to get you to go to the 2014 World Cup, right?
No.
And there was a few people saying it, right? What would you have done if you'd got the call? You would have had the whole of Sunderland behind you.
Yeah, first of all, I was the one that asked to retire. I remember going to Fabio Capello when I got picked in a squad. We had some fantastic centre-backs at the time. Even through the 12 years I was in and out, I was probably in a lot of the squads, but I didn't play that much. So it was just time, really. And obviously my knees didn't help with age. But yeah, I'm sure if I would have got picked, I would have really thought about it. But at the same time, even being realistic, I knew that was never happening.
Wow.
So I had a nice little break, which I needed for the legs. Mate.
Well, I maintain that you should have been there, and John would definitely agree, but only privately because he'd probably never admit it to you. if John, what are your memories of that night at Old Trafford in the League Cup semi-final? Because as a Sunderland fan, that was one of those moments where, yeah, all right, we don't win very much, but just getting to that final was incredible as a Sunderland fan. What was it like to be part of that squad?
Yeah, look, that was obviously one of the really good nights. We had some special nights along the way against Newcastle as well. But that night at Old Trafford, that cup run that we did, the teams we beat, beating Chelsea, obviously beating United as well, was special, you know, because anytime we went down to Old Trafford, obviously, thankfully, myself and Wes would get a good reception, you know. But we were fortunate that night. We were able to upset them and get a chance. I think it was possibly one of the worst penalty shootouts I've seen, but thankfully we came out on top. You know, Vito was able to produce a couple of saves, and great memories in the dressing room. Wes afterwards, if you remember, pal.
I do, mate.
It was strange. It was strange because
Ellis, didn't I? Well,
I think so.
I've done it for a while, so I thought I have to get my routine going again. Missed it.
For that split second, you forget when we did win the penalty shootout. I think I remember Wes, you went straight over to the United boys to commiserate them, but for that split second, I thought, wow, we're after getting to a final here. You know, it was an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And the final itself, Wes, what was the feeling like in the dressing room after that? Because the fans, we actually weren't that down. We were like, well, we've had this amazing moment where we've gone ahead at Wembley. We've been ahead at half time at Wembley. Yeah. We've had a really good day. And I don't know if you remember, well, all of the Sunderland end of the stadium stayed to applaud Manchester City getting the trophy, which doesn't often happen, but the fans had actually had a great day and weren't actually devastated. Desperate to win, of course, but weren't devastated. What were the players like?
Do you know what? We weren't devastated, Tom, and I'll tell you why. You know, we knew we put everything into it. We knew the effort was there. We still couldn't believe Yaya's shot, even being honest, even for a while. We knew the fans were enjoying it, and I think the fans in general could probably just see that. Not that they've made the effort to come down, because we all know that it was a brilliant day and we had so many fans there. But we tried, you know, we put it in there. We weren't quite as good as Man City. It was just as simple as that. But I think any team, you know, that goes into a final, plays in any game, if you show the effort, the fans will appreciate it. And I just think that the fans appreciated the run, obviously getting to Wembley and then, you know, starting off the game pretty well. And then it takes probably a worldie to sort of break that ice a little bit once we go 1-0 up. You know, even after the game, I remember sitting, and I think all the players were together, Shazy, weren't they? The City, with the families, where the families, you all went to the families. And I didn't feel, obviously I was gutted because I don't like losing, but at the same time, I was looking at the players we had, looking at their players we had, and it was a great effort from us because on paper they were a much better team, and we give them everything.
I think as well, sorry Tom, the game plan as well from Gus had worked an absolute treat as well. We'd spoken about isolating because they attacked, the fullbacks got so high that we'd have a chance to counter, and the first goal, obviously Fabio's goal, was exactly like we'd worked on the training ground, exactly like we'd spoken about in the team meeting. And for stuff like that to happen in a final, it's obviously must be hugely satisfying for the coach, the manager and the coaching staff, for Gus and his team, but for us as well, it gave us a big boost in the game as well, to see that the stuff we're being obviously asked to do and coached to do, that you're doing it in a situation like that, in a final against a top team like City. And obviously we had frustrated them, and probably we should have seen that shot coming, because we'd frustrated them so much that that's what they had left to do, was long range shots, and unfortunately we couldn't deal with it.
But against all the odds, we got to that final. But against all the odds, John, we also actually managed to stay up. I'd said that as fans, we had accepted relegation several times throughout that season. All right, but then we drew away at Manchester City. Like I said, we beat Chelsea away. We beat Manchester United away, which no one saw coming, especially after we just lost 5-1 against Tottenham. And so I'm saying to you, John, that the fans, we'd kind of accepted our fate. Did the players ever think we're really up against this now? We might be in the Championship next season.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Go on, Wes.
No, I didn't. Obviously, I knew it was there. We had so many games in hand. It was really against us because we kept saying to ourselves, especially at the beginning of it, because we went on such a good cup run, that will be fine. You know, we're fine. We've got lots of games in hand. And I think we lost the first couple, and then all of a sudden, that mindset sort of changes. But I don't think in the changing room, we, as a team, as a collective team, we ever thought we're going down here. I think we always believed in ourselves when we had myself, John, but there was Seb, there was Katz, there was a few lads, very good who were very vocal in the changing rooms. And at not one point did I think that season, even though this is going to be tough, that we're so bad that we're going to go down, but we have the confidence that we can get some points, and we just had to keep the lads heads high. We had to keep try and keep confident in confidence in what we're doing. We knew it'd be tight, but at the same time, the lads got together. Obviously, with the manager and staff, and we put in a lot of work just to really battle and try and keep our heads up. Really,
I think as well, Wes. I don't know if you remember, Cookie, the kit man.
Cookie.
Every time in the season where you'd have the Premier League would change the colour of the ball, and then when it came back around the springtime, Cookie used to joke because obviously he'd get the balls ready sometimes for training, and then when it went from the yellow back to the white, I think it was generally around springtime or say end of March. This is where we start winning football matches. I'll never forget him saying it. I was thinking, and thankfully we did for a good few years.
Well, yeah, it worked under Di Canio, Poyet, and that brings us on to Dick Advocat, actually, because that 2013-14 season was brilliant. The next season, Gus Poyet then he left, and Dick Advocat came in, and now you mentioned, John, about Derby wins, right? And I've always wondered how do players celebrate these wins, because all these managers came in, and including Sam Allardyce, who came next. The second game was always against Newcastle, and we always won. Poyet won 3 times. At Advocat's second game, Jermaine Defoe scores that left-footed volley, absolutely amazing. Now I was thinking, God, us fans, I think that made it 5 in a row. We were celebrating a lot, and I thought, how are these Sunderland players going to be celebrating? So I go into this club after the game, and I see Jermaine Defoe. Now he's drinking water. All right, now fair enough. I don't think Jermaine Defoe drinks alcohol. And you know what's coming, John. And I see Connor Wickham, and I'd been told that Connor Wickham was this big party boy. Connor Wickham was drinking water. I was thinking, crikey, Dick Advocat's got these players being really professional and stuff. And then I wander over a little bit further in this club, and I see 2 very experienced, with trophy cabinets and medal cabinets like you wouldn't believe. They've even won the Champions League, these 2 stalwarts, leaders. And I look at their table, and it's just full of pint glasses. Now, John, who were those 2 Sunderland players that I'm talking about?
We struggled to get to sleep after games, especially Derby games, Tom.
Stress, you know what I mean? It's stress. You need a few to calm you down.
Certain times, that's especially what I learned going back from my United days, that when obviously you did have a blowout at a certain time, there was always a right time to do it. And not saying that was quite a risky one in the sense when you're going into Newcastle, but no, look, it was the right time to do it. When you have a win like that, you always have to remember you need to celebrate as well within reason. And look, I was fortunate as well to have the run of games against Newcastle that we did. Was crazy. It was crazy. We were able to get those wins against Newcastle like we did. It was brilliant and obviously amazing for the fans.
No Sunderland fan would blame you at all for having a blowout after a win against Newcastle. I can assure you of that. And Wes, at what point did you realise just how big those games were to the fans?
Pretty much the first one under Steve Bruce, to be fair, because we lost it, and the stick we got was, I think it was a bit too much in a way for one sort of football game. But then you realise the longer you stay there, how important it is to win that one. And I think, once you do get it out of the way, the manager especially, there's a lot of respect there from the fans in particular. But it's one you want to win. I mean, I knew it was a big game anyway. I think the Man United, Man City derby is a little bit different. I felt like the Newcastle Sunderland one was a little bit more edge to it. I mean, I have a lot of friends and family were Man City fans as well, and sort of can all go to the game together. There's not really much separation. You can sort of have a good time. But this one seemed a little bit more hostile, if I'm being honest. So there's a little bit more edge to it, which as a player is brilliant when you play it, especially when you win it.
Did you enjoy them, John? I remember one game where we won 1-0, and didn't you get moved at the last minute to left back, which I don't think you'd have done for a few years. I think it must have been Reveille got injured and Quartes came in, and he must have said, I can't play left back. How did that conversation go with? Well, that would have been going back to Poyet.
Yeah,
like he met Figo, so that was a long time ago.
No, I had to get into the old memory bank to dust off a bit of muscle memory, because obviously it's a different lung capacity you need for left back as well. But I think it was at St James's the game
just before Christmas.
Yeah, and I think might have been Sissoko was out on the right hand side maybe for Newcastle as well. So I knew I was going to be challenged by him as well. So look, it was one of them things. I was fortunate. I had, when I say a football brain, I'd like to think I was intelligent enough to cope with changing positions, no problem. And when a manager needed me to do that, I was able to cope with it, So it was challenging, but we got it done.
And I mean, those derby wins, that one that you were talking about, where's the first one where you lost, Ryan Taylor scored. That's actually the last time that Newcastle have beaten Sunderland, and Sunderland fans are quite keen to remind our neighbours about that, although they're quite keen to mention that they are now 2 leagues above us, unfortunately. So Sam Allardyce comes to the club. We haven't talked about his spell just yet. And when he came in, John, he just seemed perfect for Sunderland, right? He had that experience, and he had played for the club, albeit a long time ago, and he just seemed like the perfect fit for the club. And as fans, we absolutely loved him. What did he do to get it so right when he came in?
I think the whole club, as you said, the players, fans, everybody just kind of went, we've got there. We've kind of, that's exactly what you said. Everyone just kind of went, we've clicked on one here. And it was down to how Big Sam's personality, how he delegated. He made the staff feel really brilliant and important about the roles at the club, what they had to do, that he shouldn't have to deal with their issues. If they're in control of their, whether it be strength and conditioning or physios or whatever it was, whatever department it was, you shouldn't need to come. It should be your last resort that you come see the manager to deal with it, because then there's an issue with you not being in control of your department. And then in terms of the players, I remember he had individual meetings with everybody right at the start, and he made it so clear of why you would be in the team. If you're not in the team, that there will be clear reasons why. And there's no problem. He's one of the first managers as well that when I've heard say the door will always be open, that generally it was open, and there was no problem having that dialogue. that there was never going to be any issue coming back to being in the team or out of the squad or stuff like that. So it was a really open relationship, and got, as you said, got the response from everybody.
Wes, you weren't as involved once Lamine Kone came in and Yunus Kabul really found his form. So what was he like to you? Because sometimes you hear if a player isn't playing as much, a manager kind of can discard them. What was he like for you?
It's going to sound weird, but you sort of put me on the staff, mate. I used to travel with the lads to the game, stay up a little bit later because I knew I wasn't playing with all the staff and have a chat. So it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I knew I was it was my last year. And obviously Coney was playing really well at the time. And Kabul and obviously John was still there. And I mean, this is where my knees were really bad now. And, you know, it was one of them where you're absolutely gutted because in your head, you're ready for it, but your body's not, it's accepting the sort of standards anymore and the physical demand of everyday football. So I didn't train that often. I would probably train and then miss 2 days. It got to that stage. And I know that probably didn't happen with John. He's a lot taller, isn't he? He's not got big legs and he's got these skinny long legs. Yeah, I mean, it was just a little bit too much. I think with all my cruciates I've had and all the operations over the years with my knees, it just got to the point where the wear and tear got a little bit too much. But yeah, I travelled with the lads, went to the dressing room. I tried to speak to the lads like I was a little bit of staff. But at that time, still, we had players that would still come up to me and Shady and ask us lots of questions, and we try and answer them in the best way and just try and get the confidence in the team.
And he was, of course, if you'd come out of international retirement in 2016 and been in the England squad, we might not have lost to Iceland, and Sunderland wouldn't have lost Sam Allardyce, which of course did happen that summer, which was the summer that you departed, Wes. So when at that stage, you know, what happened there? Were you know, was it just time for you to move on, given what you've just said?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can ask any player, you get to the point and you just know. You've probably done everything you can. I mean, we train really hard. You train to be fit. You prepare your body to be completely ready. But when it's sort of giving up on you on these sort of high standards, the speed of the Premier League is always getting quicker as well. You know, you got some nippy 17-year-old, 18-year-olds running at you down the wings. And it's just harder. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. And you can adapt as much as possible. But it becomes a point where your body just can't take it anymore, even though your head can. So it was definitely time for me to sort of say, yeah, I've had a great career in the Premier League in that sense, and it's time for me to give it a rest now. Obviously, I did still join Blackburn a few months later, because that's what happens, Shady, you might know, because you're there now. You think you're going to be tired, and 2 months down the line, you're like, no, I think I'm okay. I need to carry on. It's more for your mind. It doesn't mean you're going to be any better than you was when you finish, but it's more your mind. You still want to do it, and you're thinking to yourself, well, if I don't give it another go, I'm going to regret it in 2 years down the line when I can't do it anymore. So I try to play as long as possible. But, you know, at Sunderland, I think, especially being in the Premier League, it was the right time for me.
Go on then, John. Tell us how good he was.
Look, his career speaks for itself, but on and off the pitch, but especially on the pitch, you knew exactly what you were going to get from Wes. That quality, any player who would have came up against him knew they had the threat of being smashed over the sidelines at any moment. Fairly should I add, and the quality on the ball as well, and the leadership skills that he always possessed throughout his career. For anyone to come back from the injuries that he did, tells you all about the character of the person, first and foremost. To have that determination and will to come back to the level he did, tells you everything, Tom, really, in his career. His career haul backs it up.
I've been suspended too much in this day and age, mate. Because I remember when I got sent off for one against Stoke, which was the most frustrating one. He actually sent me off for the aggression that I went in to win the ball. But my point was I was running fast to get there first, which I did. And these rules were all changed at the same time, and it was doing me head in.
What about when you got sent off at Old Trafford?
And then I guess, someone thought it was some tall Irish guy. Do you know what I mean? I was like, what is going on here?
I remember that.
That was incredible.
So funny. I was saying to him, I've not touched him. And I remember John. Sorry, someone keeps phoning my phone. I remember John coming over and he went, but he's already sent me off by now. Yeah. I remember John coming over saying, it wasn't Wes, it was me. And I think he actually said, oh, you go off then, John. And you went, well, you haven't sent me off. And then I think he was getting a bit angry. He knew he messed up and he just said, right, Wes, you're going to have to go. I've sent you off now. I've made a mistake, but I've sent you off now. And then I walked off, obviously, smiling, laughing, like to say, what the hell. But yeah, regardless, they still had a penalty, didn't they? And they were going to send one of us off. So yeah, it sort of didn't matter. It was just the whole getting it mixed.
It worked out okay because I think the next game, because they realised they made a mistake, I think you were okay, weren't you?
Yeah, I was okay. Yeah, so that got overturned pretty much straight away. So that was the only good thing about it. But yeah, I scored an own goal at Old Trafford as well the first time we changed. So we had some funny experiences when I went back there. But obviously the good one was in the cup.
The lads thought that was part of your contract. The lads.
Yes, no, they did. Yeah, I remember walking into the home team room afterwards, and the lads like, "Cheers, Wes." Like, I was like, "Don't start, boys, don't start." But it was good. It was good. We enjoyed it. The experiences we had, we've had the experience of the very highs. So to have the experience where someone keeps phoning. To have the experience where you're sort of understanding what's happening at lower in the division as well, I am more than grateful for.
We're not going to dwell on too much what happened after Sam Allardyce left, John, because things did take a turn for the worse. I know, Wes, you will have been watching those from afar, probably with a heavy heart. We went down from the Premier League, unfortunately went down from the Championship as well. And I suppose the question for you, John, in no way am I asking to name names or anything like that, but it was clear that, from a fan's point of view, we think it was clear that some players, their hearts weren't in it. Now, when we were doing all these great escapes and producing miracles, it was clear that every single player was 100% committed to the rest of the players, the manager, and the whole club. It seemed from the outside that wasn't the case suddenly. Now, what was that like for you, being in the centre of that? And if you did see someone who you thought they're only here for the money or they're here for whatever reason and they're not giving their all, how hard would that be for you?
Yeah, look, some of what you say, I understand a little bit of what you're trying to say, Tom, but generally, when you change the squad around the amount of times we did, obviously the quality of players that we lost, and then you're changing that quality around, was tough to replicate and to, shall we say, go into the well of digging deep again. That we've got a in another survival fight, it was like as if you're rolling the dice, it's eventually going to go against you. And look, it was so challenging. It was very challenging. And I loved my time up at Sunderland. I wouldn't change it. Obviously, you change the way it ended. But anyone ever asked me about Sunderland, I can only speak so highly of it. The club and the people especially. Because people talk about up in the northeast. It was an amazing time. Myself and my family, we loved it up there. But the challenges towards the end were tough, and the expectation levels at a big club, some players obviously struggled with that as well. The pressures that brought from, rightly so, fans that spent their hard-earned wages coming to support the team, and some boys weren't able to deal with it and crumbled a little bit, and that was the unfortunate part. We couldn't. Getting back to if you just quickly to the Netflix thing, like that was something that I would have been against right from the off, but the club decided to do that. In one sense, I'm glad they did, because they highlighted how special that some people at the club are, the people behind the scenes, and you see the true passion of the fans, obviously. But I just thought at the time it was the wrong thing to do at the time for the club, you know, because we needed to obviously just galvanise, settle down, not open the doors for cameras. I know behind the scenes it was a sense of, yeah, we're going to bounce back quickly. The intentions would have been right, but there was just too much going on at the club at the time for it to work, I think.
Too much pressure, that, Shazer.
But look, that the club made that call themselves, but I know, for example, that a lot that the boys weren't comfortable with it. They were never comfortable having the cameras round. You're never going to act as you normally would. That's not the reason why. Far from it. That's not the reason why. Obviously, we had the season we did. We just couldn't react to that disappointment, and we couldn't recover ourselves quickly with the squad changing around again and the management changing again quickly, and that vicious circle starting again.
Yeah, it's difficult. That first series was obviously supposed to see Sunderland go back to the Premier League from the Championship, ended in relegation. The second series was supposed to see us go up from League One back in the Championship, and lost the playoff final as well. So, but like you say, the fans and people from the club have come across very well in that. And Wes, when you see Sunderland now still in League One for now a third season, when you remember all of these times that we've just been talking about, how hard is it for you to see that, knowing people who are still at the club and having a close bond with the fans?
Yeah, it's a little bit heartbreaking because they shouldn't be there. They should have never got to that point. I mean, we all know what's happened and how it went. But, you know, if I think about the days when we're running out playing Newcastle, for instance, in the Premier League, with all the fans, the support, you know, all the staff that were there, it should have never have got to where it is now, but it has. And I'm sure, you know, eventually there'll be a group of people that get together and get it all right and, you know, think ahead and get us back up the leads, because it's definitely a club that's too big to be in that division. And the supporters, you know, want that. The supporters need that. And I'm sure the club do as well, because it's I'm not going to say disappointing, but it's a shame that it's gone the way it has gone, because no one would have ever thought it would have gone like that. Even when we were going through tough times, even once I left, I knew it was going to be difficult to stay up again. I mean, we've done it three seasons out of 4, but to keep going down and really struggle is it's hard to watch, knowing that, you know, even when I've watched the Netflix program, that there's still some of the staff there. Obviously, when I was there, they're still there, but there's so many that have gone because of it as well. Good people, honest people, who work hard, love the club as well, all supporters. That's the tough part for me, and I'm just hoping someone can turn it around and get sort of like a steady flow going, so we're challenging properly to get back up.
We'll get our fingers crossed for that, Wes. Right, I've got one more question to the two of you, and hopefully we'll be ending on a positive note. I'll have to wrap this up because I've got to go on air soon. If you're thinking I've got this boring background, because I'm currently in an edit suite at Sky.
I've just in the toilet.
Basically looks like
no joking.
The two of you, what you'll both know is that Sunderland fans loved Roy Keane. Right, he did a good job at Sunderland, and the amount of times there's been a clamour to get him back to the club. Of course, you both played with him. And John, when he got the job as Sunderland manager, Niall Quinn had kind of teased everyone saying, I think I've got a new manager. He is a world-class football person. That's what he said. And that got everyone thinking, what is that? Now, the next day it was announced that it was Roy Keane. Having played with him, what made him, he seems to be unique. He seems to be so different to everybody else, but just his personality as a player and then as a manager, assistant manager, and what have you. And I know you'll have had dealings with him with Ireland when he would have been assistant manager. What is it about him that makes him so special?
Roy is what he is. Roy is what he is on the tin, as they say. He's a winner. He wants to win. He wants to do everything he can to win, and he demands a standard of concentration, of quality, but as well as that, he only asks of what you can do. He knows players' limits. He knows their levels they can get to, and he just demands that all the time and constantly. And it's very simple. He wants to win. He's shown that obviously throughout his career, and continues to show that as well in the Sky Studios. No, look, myself and Wes had some amazing times with him, and I had amazing times with him with Ireland as well. Being involved at obviously the Euros, games, beating Germany, stuff like that was some amazing times, and I think he's spoken about it recently. He's desperate to get back in as well and get managing again. So I look forward to seeing him back on the sideline soon with some team.
But he's always spoken very highly of you two, actually, from your time together at Manchester United. And Wes, when you hear someone who was your captain there speaking so highly of you as a player, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's good. I mean, Keano, you have to remember, we came in at a very young age under Keano as a captain. His expectation is so high, but people sometimes get mixed up with Keano as well. I mean, he understands what you can do. You know, he sees it on the training ground. He sees he can see that you can do it on the pitch. So, for instance, if you have a bad game, Roy Keane, as the captain, will absolutely go through you even when you're walking into the changing room. But I tell you what, he was one of the first persons to praise you as well when you played well. Sometimes people don't see that side of him, but he knows your expectations. So he knows the level, especially obviously when we're at Man United, he knows the level that it takes to win championships, to win cups. So he expects that from every player, even if you're a young player. You know, he knows that, yes, you're a good player, you're a young player, but he won't, just because you're young, he doesn't care. You know, you're on a man's football pitch and he expects you to live up to expectation. And as long as you can get that round your head, you can understand that nothing's very personal. It's all about expectations. And, you know, he was the leader of our team. And that's why, you know, I say when in my early career, I understood about what it means to win, the effort you need to put in. You know, if you do have sloppy days, it's not acceptable. You know, and we all have bad days. Even Roy would have had bad days, but it's how you bounce back from it. He wouldn't let you dwell on it. You know, you'd have to step it up for next game. And he expected that was from every single player, and that's not just a young lad. That was every player on the team. He knew that it was his team, and to get the best, we all had to work very hard.
He didn't give out. He never gave out to Scholesy. Scholesy was always
all right
because he never gave the ball away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sunderland fans would never have forgiven me if I hadn't asked you both about Roy Keane. But great to see both of you. John, keep going well at Reading. We'd love to have you back as our manager one day, but only on we want you to promise that even though Wes Brown says he's got no interest in coaching, we want him back in some capacity as well. Can you promise us that if you come back?
Oh, look, without a doubt, he'd be back. He'd be first on the person.
I'll be looking at his again. That's what I did most of the time because I was on my own. At least I can get a cut. At least I can get some food, Tom.
No, I'd echo what Wes said earlier about fingers crossed. It's close to getting the club back to where they belong. Because it is a special club, but hopefully now they can get the foundations right. And take the steps slowly, because then when they do get back there, they can stay there then.
Well, we definitely hope so. John O'Shea, Wes Brown, legends in lockdown. We've loved to have you on here for the Foundation of Light. Thank you to both of you. And don't forget, there is a link to a Just Giving page here on this YouTube channel. Please give what you can to the foundation because it is absolutely vital to the area. Thanks, Wes. Thanks, John.
Top man, see you later. See you in a bit.
Take care, Wesley.
See you later, pal.